Ladies and gentlemen, the number 7 holds profound biblical significance, completeness, divine fulfillment, and cycles of spiritual testing. A prophetic 7-year cycle often symbolizes a period of preparation, purification, and positioning for the next divine move. The concept of a 7-year prophetic cycle is not merely a scriptural curiosity. It is a divine pattern embedded in the rhythm of time itself. In the language of spirit, numbers carry messages, and the number 7 has always held profound meaning. It is the number of completion, of divine perfection, of fullness. We see this not just in the text of Scripture, but in the unfolding of creation itself. In the Genesis account, God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. That 7th day was not just a pause, it was a sanctification, a setting apart of time for holiness. From the very beginning, we are shown that time is not random, it is sacred, purposeful, and cyclical. When we speak of a prophetic cycle, we are referring to a God-ordained period in which specific themes, lessons, and spiritual movements are played out both in the collective world and within the individual soul. A 7-year cycle often represents a full season of spiritual development, where a person or a people are brought through stages of testing, refinement, and revelation. This is a period in which the unseen hand of God is sculpting character, deepening faith, and aligning events for a greater unveiling. These cycles are not always comfortable, because growth rarely is, but they are necessary. Just as a seed must rest in the darkness before breaking through the soil, so too must the soul pass through its hidden season before it can blossom into fullness. In Scripture, 7-year periods are not coincidental, they are prophetic signals. Think of Joseph in Egypt. Through divine insight, he interpreted Pharaoh's dream to mean there would be 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. That was not simply an agricultural forecast, it was a prophetic revelation about preparation. During those first 7 years, Joseph gathered, stored, and positioned Egypt for what was coming. Those who had ears to hear and eyes to see were preserved. Those who ignored the signs were caught unaware. The principle here is powerful. The 7-year cycle is always about preparing for what is next. The number 7 shows up again and again, whispering its sacred message to those who listen. The Hebrew calendar is structured around cycles of 7s. 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, 7 years, and even 7 sets of 7 years, leading to the year of Jubilee. This rhythm reveals that time, in the eyes of heaven, is not linear but layered. The end of one cycle is not merely the end, it is also a threshold. It is the womb of a new beginning. In the same way a woman gives birth at the completion of her pregnancy term, so too does the Spirit bring forth something new at the close of every divine cycle. Now, imagine the weight and power of completing a 7-year prophetic cycle. It means you are standing at a moment of spiritual culmination, a time when everything you have walked through, suffered through, believed for, and cried out for is reaching its fullness. It is a divine checkpoint, a pause in the heavenly clock where God whispers, "Now is the time." This is why discernment is so crucial. If you do not know the time you are in, you will miss the door that opens before you. If you treat this moment as ordinary, you will overlook the extraordinary work being done beneath the surface. The 7-year cycle is not just an external event marked by dates and calendars. It is an internal alignment, a spiritual recalibration. When a person begins to awaken to the timing of God, they begin to live differently. They pray with more intention. They watch with more discernment. They live with a holy expectation, knowing that something sacred is about to shift. You begin to look at your life not as a string of random events, but as a tapestry being woven with purpose. Each trial, each delay, each breakthrough was part of a cycle, a divine choreography moving you toward destiny. This is why the end of a 7-year prophetic cycle is not to be taken lightly. It is not about superstition or sensationalism. It is about recognizing that time itself is speaking. April 2025 may very well be more than a date on the calendar. It may be a spiritual summons. It may be the echo of the Spirit saying, "Get ready. What has been hidden will now be revealed. What has been sown will now be harvested." And when you understand this, when you truly grasp the meaning of this moment, you do not panic, you prepare. You do not fear, you awaken. You begin to live prophetically, fully conscious of the time, fully surrendered to the process, and fully expectant of the glory that follows every completed cycle. When a prophetic cycle ends, especially one as spiritually significant as a 7-year cycle, something begins to stir, not only in the heavens, but in the deep places of the soul. The end of a cycle is never just about closure. It is about transition, transformation, and transcendence. It is the moment the invisible becomes visible, the intangible becomes manifest, and what was once hidden in mystery begins to rise in clarity. There is a shifting of seasons, not just in the world around you, but in your consciousness. To those attuned to spirit, it becomes unmistakably clear. Something sacred is unfolding. Throughout sacred history, the end of divine cycles has always preceded moments of great awakening or upheaval. These shifts often come silently, not with thunder or flashing signs, but with a subtle inner knowing that the time of preparation has passed and the time of manifestation has arrived. The soil that has been tilled, watered, and sown for years begins to yield fruit. The promises that were delayed are now matured and ready for fulfillment. It is an active, sacred invitation to step into a higher dimension of awareness and alignment. At the conclusion of such cycles, one must remember that God does not simply end things arbitrarily. Everything in the divine order operates by rhythm, by harmony, by purpose. When a 7-year season draws to a close, it signals that all that needed to be completed, refined, broken, or built has reached its fullness. This includes the unseen work in your character, your understanding, your relationships, and even your circumstances. Nothing escapes the scope of the divine process. And now, as the cycle ends, you are being called to rise into what you have been prepared for. What felt like delay was formation. What felt like resistance was refinement. Now the gates open. In moments like this, one must not look outward in fear, but inward with awareness. This is where the true shift occurs. The end of a prophetic cycle is not just about what God is doing in the world. It's about what He has done within you. You are not the same person you were 7 years ago. The trials, the wilderness, the questions, the stretching, it has all served to make you more aligned, more sensitive, more in tune with divine purpose. Whether you knew it or not, you were being prepared for this moment. You were being prepared for revelation, elevation, and ultimately activation. This is why endings in the spirit are really beginnings in disguise. The end of a cycle marks the moment where vision meets fulfillment. You begin to see things unfold that you once only imagined. What you prayed for in secret now begins to move in the open. Dreams long shelved are being revisited. Doors once locked begin to swing wide. The things that once seemed far off are suddenly near. But to perceive this rightly, you must remain spiritually awake. Many people live on the surface of time, unaware of the deeper movements beneath. They miss divine appointments because they are distracted by earthly concerns. But those who are aware, those who feel the frequency of God's timing, know when a shift has occurred. They sense the nearness of breakthrough. They live not by what they see with their eyes, but by what they know in their spirit. And so when a prophetic cycle ends, it requires a new kind of posture, one of faith, one of expectation, one of bold obedience. No longer is it time to hold back, to hesitate, or to dwell in the patterns of the past. The old garments no longer fit. The former mindset cannot contain the new wine. You must step into the new with trust, with vision, and with the quiet confidence that everything you've walked through has led to this very moment. This is not the time to ask, what if? It is the time to say, now is the time. Prophetic cycles do not end without purpose. They are God's way of ushering in a new level of His presence, His plan, and His glory. You may not see it all at once, but the signs will be unmistakable. A fresh hunger for truth, a deeper pull toward purpose, an inner release of what no longer serves. These are the markings of a new season. The final days of a prophetic cycle are often the most intense, not because something is ending, but because something is about to begin. This is the labor before the birth, the tremble before the triumph. And if you quiet your heart long enough, you will hear it, that sacred whisper saying, you have completed the course, now walk into the promise. The divine cycle ends, not to break you, but to build you into the vessel ready to carry what you've been prepared for. It is time. The shift is here. And those who know the rhythm of the Spirit will not miss it. They will rise with it. There are moments in time that feel like whispers from eternity, divine intersections where heaven touches earth in a way that cannot be ignored. These are not ordinary dates on a calendar. They are prophetic markers, sacred appointments etched into the rhythm of history and hidden within the soul's awareness. April 2025 stands as such a moment. To the natural mind, it may appear as just another month, another page in the story of a passing year. But to those who are spiritually awake, April 2025 resonates with deeper meaning. It signals the closing of a cycle and the invitation into a new level of divine alignment, awareness, and awakening. This time is not accidental, it is purposeful. The end of a 7-year prophetic cycle landing in April is not a coincidence. It is a convergence. Throughout history, God has used specific windows of time to release truth, to unveil what was hidden, and to call His people into deeper intimacy and higher consciousness. April, in the natural world, represents spring, a season of renewal, resurrection, and emergence. What has been buried begins to bloom. What was dormant comes alive, and so it is in the Spirit. Just as nature reflects divine intention, so does time itself carry prophetic weight. The seasons are not just climate, they are symbols, language, and rhythm. When we speak of April 2025 as a prophetic marker, we are not drawing attention to fear, chaos, or speculation. We are drawing attention to awareness, to a spiritual alertness that recognizes when the air shifts, when the heavens stir, when the soul begins to remember something it always knew but perhaps forgot. In the language of the soul, awakening often comes wrapped in divine timing. There is an internal alarm clock that begins to go off, not with noise but with knowing. Something in you stirs, something in you stretches. It is not anxiety, it is anticipation. The veil begins to lift, and what was once obscure begins to come into focus. The prophetic nature of April 2025 is rooted not in outer events alone, but in the inner call it represents. It is the soul's invitation to rise higher, to think differently, to step into a greater measure of truth and light. The Spirit does not move arbitrarily. He moves in alignment with divine timing. And for those who've been walking through the narrow places, the hidden places, the refining fires of the last 7 years, this moment is more than symbolic. It is a threshold. It is the turning of the page, not because the date itself holds magic, but because the Spirit is using this moment to announce a new era, a new posture, and a new awareness. In the stillness of contemplation, many can already feel it. A stirring in the atmosphere, a sense that something sacred is being birthed. It is the spiritual equivalent of standing at the edge of dawn, You may still see traces of darkness, but your spirit knows. Morning is coming, the shadows are thinning, the old weight is lifting, and the light that once seemed far off is beginning to break over the horizon. April 2025 carries that dawning energy. For those who have ears to hear, it is not about waiting for something external to rescue them. It is about recognizing the divine impulse within, the voice that says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come." This time is not about escape, it is about embodiment. It is not about watching the skies in fear, but opening your heart in faith. You were born for such a time as this, not to merely survive it, but to transform within it. This is the moment to awaken to your divine identity, to cast off the old patterns and stories, and to step fully into the truth of who you are. The heavens may speak in signs, but the real rapture begins in the heart. It is the lifting of the soul into full awareness of union with the divine. It is not an external event to be feared, but an internal reality to be lived. April 2025 may very well be the time when many awaken to their calling, their assignment, and their alignment. Not because of a date, but because of a divine invitation that has reached its appointed time. In the sacred economy of God, nothing is wasted and nothing is random. Every tear, every trial, every quiet act of obedience has led to this point, and now the call is going forth, not with a trumpet in the sky, but with a whisper in the heart. This is your time. Step into the new. Awaken, for the cycle is complete. You are not here by chance. You are here by divine design. April 2025 is not simply the end of something, it is the awakening of everything. The rapture is one of the most mysterious and often misunderstood concepts in prophetic thought. For many, it has long been viewed solely as a future event, an external escape, a sudden vanishing of souls from the earth into the heavens. And while this traditional view captures a dramatic image of divine intervention, there lies within the idea of the rapture a far deeper and more immediate truth, one that speaks not of distance but of dimension, not of leaving the world but of rising within it. The rapture, at its core, is not just a moment in time to be awaited, but a state of consciousness to be awakened into. It is an inner ascension, a spiritual rising into union with the divine, where one no longer lives by the illusions of fear, lack, and separation, but by the truth of identity, unity, and divine presence. This rising is not something that suddenly happens while you sleep. It is something that begins within, often in silence, in solitude, and in the secret chambers of the heart. It is the process of being caught up, not into the clouds of the sky alone, but into the awareness of a higher realm of truth. This is not fantasy, this is not escapism, this is the very essence of spiritual transformation. The true rapture is not about fleeing the earth, but transcending the limitations of the lower mind. It is to see with new eyes, to perceive reality as it truly is, not bound by time or space, but connected to the eternal. The rapture is the soul remembering where it came from and to whom it belongs. This inner ascension is not a singular event, but an ongoing awakening. Each day that you choose love over fear, each time you listen to the still small voice over the noise of the world, each moment you act from divine truth instead of human reaction, you are ascending, you are rising. You are being caught up into a reality that is not bound by circumstance. This is the life of the awakened. This is the life of the one who has heard the call of the Spirit and answered with a resounding, "Yes, I am ready." The rapture then becomes a mirror. It reflects not just what is coming, but what is already possible. It is not only about what God will do in a dramatic future moment, but what He is doing now in hearts that are open. It is the lifting of the veil, the clearing of the fog, the realization that heaven is not far, it is near, it is within. Christ in you, the hope of glory, is not poetry. It is reality. It is the mystery that changes everything when it is no longer just believed, but experienced. Those who live in this awareness are already living raptured lives. They do not wait to be taken. They walk as those who have already been raised. They do not wait for signs in the sky. They are the signs. They do not look to escape the world. They live to transform it, knowing that they carry the presence of God with every breath they take. These are the ones who see beyond the veil. They have left behind the limited identity of fear and stepped fully into their divine sonship and daughterhood. Their lives are not driven by fear of judgment, but drawn by the magnetism of divine love. This kind of ascension cannot be legislated, predicted by charts, or confined to dates. It happens in quiet rooms, in moments of surrender, in tears cried in secret, in long nights where the soul wrestles with God and emerges changed. The rapture is not an escape hatch for the fearful. It is a throne room for the faithful. It is not a panic button. It is the unfolding of divine intimacy. When the soul awakens to its true nature, when it is caught up into the realization of oneness with the source, it no longer fears what is coming. It embraces it, because it knows that the kingdom of heaven is not just near, it is within. And so, in this light, the question is no longer, will I be taken in the rapture? But rather, have I allowed my heart to rise now? Have I surrendered to the Spirit's pull upward? Have I awakened to the Christ within me? Have I shed the false identity of this world and clothed myself in the light of truth? For those who have, the rapture is not something they fear or even anxiously await. It is something they live, moment by moment, breath by breath, glory to glory. The sky may split one day, but their spirits have already soared. They have already ascended. They are already home. Preparation in the realm of spirit is not about frantic action, it is about alignment. It is not about doing more, but about becoming more aware. As we stand at the threshold of what many believe to be a prophetic moment, perhaps even a divine culmination in April 2025, the call is not to panic, not to speculate wildly, and certainly not to fear. The call is to prepare, and this preparation is inward. It is sacred, it is quiet, and it is transformative. Just as a bride prepares for the arrival of her bridegroom, not with haste, but with love and anticipation, so too must the soul prepare itself for union with what is coming. This preparation is not done with the hands, but with the heart. It is not measured in time, but in truth. You do not prepare by looking out at the chaos. You prepare by looking within and finding the stillness where God speaks. To prepare for a divine moment is to awaken to your divine identity. The old self, the version of you that was ruled by fear, ego, and survival, cannot carry the weight of what is coming. That self must be laid down, surrendered on the altar of transformation. You are being invited to ascend, not by effort but by awareness. This means examining your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, your attachments. Are you still clinging to old wounds, old narratives, old limitations that no longer serve the soul you are becoming? Are you still living as if you are separate from God, waiting for heaven to come when heaven is already whispering within you? True preparation begins with remembrance. Remembering who you are, whose you are, and why you are here. You are not an accident of time or a spectator of prophecy. You are a participant in the divine unfolding. You are not here to be afraid. You are here to be awake. Awake to the moment, awake to the presence, awake to the voice of the Spirit that has been guiding you all along. To prepare for a moment of prophetic fulfillment is to live now as if it were already true. It is to become the future before it fully arrives, not out of denial of the present, but in deep agreement with the reality that the kingdom is already within you. This kind of preparation cannot be rushed and it cannot be faked. It is not about knowing dates or decoding symbols. It is about being transformed. It is about becoming sensitive again to the movement of the Spirit. It is about clearing the noise, the distraction, the inner clutter, so that you can hear the soft whisper of divine instruction. God does not shout. He does not force. He calls. He draws. And He waits for the soul to respond with surrender. And so the most powerful preparation you can make is to return to stillness, to simplicity, to surrender, to step out of performance and into presence. What does this look like in practice? It looks like prayer, not as obligation but as oxygen. It looks like spending time in silence, allowing the inner chatter to quiet long enough to hear the still voice of truth. It looks like opening the scriptures not just for information but for transformation. It looks like examining your heart, searching for unforgiveness, pride, fear, doubt, and laying those burdens down. It looks like asking boldly, Spirit, what must be made ready in me, and listening not with the ears, but with the heart. The soul that is ready for what is to come is the soul that is soft, surrendered, and awake. It is not obsessed with timelines, but it is deeply attuned to timing. It lives with expectancy but not anxiety. It watches the signs but does not worship them. It recognizes that all outer movement flows from inner readiness. When the soul is ready, the door opens. When the heart is aligned, the next step becomes clear. And when you live in that place of awareness, you no longer fear what is coming. You welcome it, because you have already made room within. There is nothing to fear in the days ahead. There is only a call to go deeper, to rise higher, to awaken more fully to who you already are in the eyes of the eternal. Preparation is not about escaping the world. It is about embodying the light within it. It is about being the one who carries peace into chaos, hope into despair, love into fear. And as you prepare in this way, you become a signal in the earth, a lighthouse, a forerunner, one who is not shaken by the shaking, but one who stands because you are grounded not in this world, but in the truth of eternity. And so, prepare not with fear, but with faith. Prepare not with anxiety, but with anticipation. Prepare not because something might happen, but because something already is happening and you were born to be a part of it. And so as we stand at the edge of this divine threshold, the end of a 7-year prophetic cycle, we are not called to speculation, but to stillness. We are not summoned to panic, but to presence. This is not merely a date on the calendar, it is a divine invitation, a spiritual announcement that echoes not just through the heavens, but deep within the chambers of your soul. The time is now. The signs have spoken. The inner stirring has grown louder. The shift is no longer coming. It is here. The heavens are aligning not to alarm you, but to awaken you. The closing of this cycle is not a conclusion. It is a call to ascend. And whether the skies open or remain still, whether prophecy is fulfilled in thunder or in a whisper, your role remains the same, to rise inwardly, to awaken to your divine identity, and to prepare the sanctuary of your heart for the glory that longs to dwell there. You were not meant to merely observe this moment. You were born to embody it, to become the living message of hope in a world grasping for truth, to walk in the light of understanding while others stumble in the shadow of uncertainty. This is your hour, not to fear the darkness, but to become the flame that dispels it. You are not waiting for the rapture, you are the rising. Every time you choose faith over fear, truth over illusion, love over bitterness, you are being caught up. Every act of obedience, every whisper of surrender, every choice to believe when belief feels costly, this is preparation. This is prophecy fulfilled through you. April 2025 may very well be a moment history will look back on with reverence. But more than that, it is a mirror. It reflects your readiness, your response, your revelation. God has not left his people in confusion. He has been whispering all along, in the patterns, in the signs, in the silence. And now, as this sacred cycle draws to a close, a deeper sound emerges, the sound of destiny, the sound of awakening, the sound of the remnant rising. You are not alone in this moment. You are part of a great company. Those who have ears to hear, eyes to see, and hearts wide open. You are the light bearers, the forerunners, the ones who choose to prepare not with fear but with fire. Let this be the hour where you rise in full awareness. Let this be the moment you declare, not with trembling but with trust, I am ready, ready to rise, ready to see, ready to be all that God designed me to be. The 7 years are complete, the cycle has turned. Now step boldly into what awaits on the other side. The door is open, the Spirit is calling, and the heavens are watching, waiting for you to move. This is your moment.